Hello, how we doing?
Hey everyone.
My name is Ryan Mosser. That is one of my best friends and co-hosts, David Cahoon. This is the Commissioner's Couch Podcast. Come on in, take a seat, and let's talk some fantasy football. Um, I just want to remind everyone that we are sponsored by Inside Edge Network and LVP Productions, and also Monster Moments Photography, a husband and wife based um, Cleveland-based photography team that specializes in weddings. That's my company, so go check us out. MonsterMomentsPhotography.com, MOSSOR momentsphotography.com. There are no teams on buys this week, so all 32 teams will play. And David,
Finally.
awesome. And then David will go over the injuries report for this week,
Yeah.
week 13.
So, injury report, I feel like it's finally starting to look positive for once. We have a lot of people that are returning, coming off of IR and looking like they're going to make their off of IR debuts. So, we'll start with the quarterbacks. Joe Burrow is coming off of the IR and expected to play tomorrow on Thanksgiving against the Ravens. So that's a big pickup.
Yep.
Baker Mayfield is hurt though with a shoulder. Looks like it's just a sprain for right now. I don't know how long he'll be out. Probably a week, maybe two. Um, but should be something to watch because he was playing pretty well so far this season. Had a few down weeks and then got hurt. So something to monitor for sure. Aaron Rodgers with a wrist injury again. He missed last week. My assumption is he'll be back, but we'll see and follow that closely. Dylan Gabriel is out of the concussion protocol now, but is now QB2 for the Browns. Jaden Daniels still has his elbow injury. His practice limited this week is questionable, but I think it's more doubtful. But whenever he comes back, he's going to be a game changer.
Yeah.
JJ McCarthy is in the concussion protocol. So don't start him or roster him, please. And CJ Stroud is in the concussion protocol as well. Should hopefully get out of it soon, but we will watch that and see. So that's the quarterbacks, the running backs. A lot of good positive things here. So Josh Jacobs will play tomorrow against the Lions, I think is the Packers playing. The knee injury looks like he kept him out last week, but should play this week. Bucky Irving looks like he's coming back as well from the shoulder and foot injury. So definitely something to monitor.
Thank goodness. Well. Finally.
About time. Alvin Kamara has a knee injury. Looks like he has an MCL sprain. It's questionable. I think it's more doubtful. Will probably be out a week or two. Speaking of knee injuries, Trey Benson is expected to come off of IR this week and play again. But something to watch because they opened up his window last week. And so monitor that this week. Isaiah Pacheco for the Chiefs will play as well. He should play tomorrow as they take on the... Who are they playing? That's supposed to be a good game. I forget who. But yeah, that's a one to watch. That whole backfield looks weird, but Kareem Hunt just had a monster game, so definitely something to monitor. And then Amari Hampton, his practice window has been open with his knee injury. He's listed questionable right now to play this week. I think it's more doubtful in that he will come back the following week. But still an encouraging sign that they've opened up his practice window.
I hope he plays so bad. I need him.
I hope so too. I like him. Wide receivers. Let's get into these ones real quick. T. Higgins is out with a concussion. Looked pretty brutal. Hope he's okay. Drake London is doubtful with a knee injury. Probably not going to play. Brian Thomas Jr. is questionable with an ankle. Marvin Harrison is still questionable with appendicitis. Chris Godwin Jr. is a leg injury. He's questionable. Terry McLaurin with a quad injury is questionable. Matthew Golden is questionable with a shoulder injury. Alec Aromanor is questionable with a hamstring, but looks probable to play. Rashad Bateman has an ankle injury, looks questionable. Jaden Reed is still out with his foot and collarbone combo injury. Khalif Raymond, ankle injury. Keon Coleman is still listed as out as a healthy scratch. Coach's decision. Interesting. Devonta Smith has listed as questionable chest, shoulder, and illness. And DK Metcalf also questionable with an ankle. And then the last few tight ends, just a few handful of them here. Tyler Higbee still on IR, but something to watch. Dalton Kincaid has a hamstring injury, listed as questionable. Darren Waller, pectoral injuries, listed as questionable. And Michael Mayer has an ankle injury, looks doubtful for this week. So that is the injury report, and I appreciate y'all listening.
Yeah, awesome. Lorenzo said Berber. So I don't know what that means, but thanks for the comment, bud. All right, going into our first segment here. This is Hunks and Skunks. So these are guys who we think will have a good week and guys who we think might not have a good week. My last week Hunks, I had Trey McBride. He had 9 catches on 10 targets for 79 yards, 16.90 fantasy points. That's a pretty good hunk. And then Travion Henderson, 18 rushes for 66 yards, 3 catches for 15 yards, 11.10 fantasy points. Not really that great, but not awful. So
yeah. Yeah, I had the Browns defense, which if your league uses defenses, they dominated. They had 10 sacks as a team total. Myles Garrett has 3 his own. I believe that they had a couple of takeaways with Myles Garrett forcing that strip sack. So definitely a great team defense that scored, I think it was like 32, 33 points last week. Definitely great defense to have. I had Sean Tucker as well, who did okay this week. I think he had like 6 or 7 fantasy points. But with the return of Bucky Irving coming back, it's something to watch to see how they use him moving forward. And then I had Travion Henderson as my last hunk for the week. He still looks to be the beast that he is and dominating that backfield. So excited to see how he progresses.
Yeah, I agree. All right, going into this, my week 13 hunks. My first hunk for this week, Devin Achane versus the Saints. Projected 22.73 fantasy points. Last week the Dolphins, had a bye, so they didn't play. Despite having the week off, Devin Achane is still the 4th best fantasy running back on Sleeper right now. The dude's been an absolute monster this season. In his last 6 games he's ran the ball 104 times for 638 yards and 4 touchdowns, 29 catches for 197 yards and 1 receiving touchdown, 149 fantasy points in his last 6 games. There isn't too much to talk about here. I mean, he's a league winner at this point. This week, the Dolphins played the Saints. The Saints ranked 21st in defense, allowing 123.5 rushing yards a game and 9 rushing touchdowns this season. As the Dolphins' top playmaker, there's a ton of opportunity for Devin Achane to put up a ton of fantasy points this week, and that's why he is my first week 13 sleeper.
Yeah, that's a great one. So I think my top hunk for this week
is... not sleeper. Sorry, I said sleeper.
No, you're good. Jackson Smith-Njigba. He has literally just been on a tear and doing things that we've not seen since like the 1940s. That's how ridiculous and rare what he's doing right now is. His like yards per reception has just been astronomical this year. His ability to separate and just catch the ball and score, like he looks on a completely different level than every other wide receiver in the league, and that's really saying something. Continue to be a hunk of his because he's just insane.
He's amazing, dude. He's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy because he was not as touted of a OSU wide receiver coming out either, but he's definitely emerged from that like core group of 4 from that Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Marvin Harrison Jr.
I disagree. He came out in year's own. I mean, his Rose Bowl performance was one. I mean, still has the record for the Rose Bowl for most yards in that game. Dude's been an absolute monster. I mean, he showed the glimpses. Yes, I mean, he had a tough path, to make it through the NFL as wide receiver 1 with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett ahead of him. But I mean, now that it's his chance, I mean, just phenomenal. Dude's been an absolute beast. I mean, he's a Buckeye. What do you expect? So,
wide receiver, you.
Yep. My second hunt for week 13 is going to be Drake May versus the Giants. Projected 22.03 fantasy points. Last week versus the Bengals, 22 of 35 for 294 in a touchdown and 1 interception, 5 rushes, 22 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Not that great, especially against the Bengals. Definitely a weird game for the second, ranked fantasy quarterback in sleeper against one of the worst defenses. He had a good chunk of yards, but it's clear that the Patriots desperately needed a true wide receiver 1. The only issue I have for Drake May is that his production and touchdowns have been lacking recently, but I don't blame him. He's limited by his receivers. All of that being said, I think that he's going to have a strong game this week against the Giants. The Giants currently ranked 23rd as one of the worst pass defenses. They allow over 225 yards a game. After 12 weeks, the Patriots are in sole first place in the NFL. And they are the first team this season to reach 10 points. Drake May is ranked 2nd overall as the fantasy quarterback. The Patriots team is on fire. I think Drake May is a strong QB1 option against a bad Giants defense for week 13. So he's a hunk for me. So.
Yeah, he is a huge hunk. And it's crazy to think what could happen in dynasty leagues moving forward if they draft a wide receiver for him next year.
It's crazy. I'm pretty sure They have a bye next week too. Talk about major fantasy or for playoff implications. Week 14 Patriots bye is going to be crazy for a lot of teams.
That's awful.
That sucks.
Why do we have bye so late in the season?
That's crazy. Yeah. Sorry for Patriots owners next week when they're trying to push for the playoffs or have already clinched, because that's not going to be fun.
Yeah. My other hunk that I have is Quinshon Judkins, the Browns running back. He is projected to get 12.6 points this week, and I think he's going to smash the over. He scored 16.7 last week, had 2 rushing touchdowns in that Wildcat offense, and I think he's just going to be somebody that the Browns offense just leans on, especially in the red zone, as they want to score a lot of touchdowns and capitalize off of some big plays. So I expect Quinshon Judkins to just do really well again moving forward. So scoring
You've been all over these Browns the last two weeks, bud.
I have been.
All right. Over
a lot of these rookies I like, okay?
All right. Going into our skunks for last week, week 12, my first skunk was Ashton Jeanty. Last week, he ended up having 17 rushes for 50 yards, 8 catches for 58 yards and a touchdown. 24.8 fantasy points with those pesky receptions. 8 for 8, 58 yards and a touchdown. That's what his main points were there. So I was wrong, but without those receptions, obviously, 17 rushes for 50 yards is nothing to brag about. And then my second skunk was Wan'Dale Robinson. 9 catches, 156 yards and a touchdown. He did have a fumble. 32.10 fantasy points. It's dumb to go against Jameson's wide receiver 1. So I don't know. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong, and I got it wrong last week. So
yeah, that's all right. That happens. So my skunks of last week, I had Nick Chubb and Tony Pollard, both just middle of the road running backs. They get decent amount of carries to stay with fantasy on the radar, but that's just my least favorite type of fantasy players, where they are there scoring somewhat points but not really getting anything significant, and so I just cannot stand them.
There you go. My first skunk for this week is Jared Goff versus the Packers. Projected 16.89 fantasy points. Last week versus the Giants, he went 28 for 42, 272 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, had over 18 fantasy points. Goff has honestly somewhat struggled this season. I mean, yes, he's had some electric games, but he has also put up some stinkers against some pretty bad defenses, especially the last 2 weeks. Week 11 versus the Eagles, who are the 22nd ranked passing defense. He only had 14.6 fantasy points. Week 12 versus the Commanders, 29th ranked passing defense. 18 fantasy points. Not awful, but not the best. This week, the Lions play the Packers, and unfortunately for Goff, the Packers do not have a bad defense. In fact, they have the 4th best overall defense in the NFL, and the fifth best passing defense in the NFL. They allow only 182.3 passing yards per game and 13 touchdowns in the season. This game is played on Thanksgiving. It's going to be a big matchup. It's going to be a fun game, but I think that Jared Goff is going to struggle this week against a very good Packers defense, especially prime time on Thanksgiving with everyone watching. That's why he's my first week 13 skunk.
Yeah, it's a good pick. I still like him and down the stretch, but
sure.
Right now for this matchup, I don't like him. My skunks coming into this week, they're all quarterbacks, believe it or not, but I'll start with the biggest name, Lamar Jackson. He has been absolutely awful fantasy-wise the last few weeks. He, in the last 3 weeks, guess how many touchdowns he's thrown?
Oh, I know, because I'm going to talk about him later.
Oh, 1. He's thrown 1 touchdown in the last 3 weeks, and he's not been able to run the ball. His running stats the last 3 weeks, 36 yards, 10 yards, 11 yards. Yeah. He literally looks like a completely different player and kind of looks lost out there, if I'm being completely honest. He has 2 interceptions in that same stretch of time, so double the amount of touchdowns, and he has just been absolutely god-awful for fantasy-wise. The QB 29 and the QB 28 the last 2 weeks. So somebody that I don't know if you can trust.
He's coming off a major injury, and he's still injured with a toe injury today. So, I mean, I'm giving the guy a little slack, but I hear what you're saying.
Sure. I still expected injured Lamar to do better than this, though, if I'm being completely honest. The guy that set records last year has now completely disappeared, it looks like. The only good news is that he plays the Cincinnati Bengals 2 out of the next 3 weeks, and that defense is putrid. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of him right now. I really don't know what to think of most teams in the AFC North, and that Ravens offense looks a little bit chunky and clunky and lost. So,
go into your second skunk.
My second one is Brock Purdy. ever since returning from his injury, he has not looked the same either. Last week, he threw 3 interceptions in the first half and just kind of looked like a turnover machine. And I don't think this week's going to be any better for him because he's going up against the Cleveland Browns, which is the best defense in the NFL. I think that D line is going to feast, really pressure him and force him to make really quick and bad decisions. And I expect that secondary to capitalize off of it. Yeah, I'm excited to see that defense do really well. But yeah, Brock Purdy does not look comfortable in that offense. Doesn't look like he has the weapons around him to succeed, and I'm not a fan of him this week.
There you go. That's not a bad one. The Browns defense is very, very good. So, all right, my second skunk for Week 13, Michael Pittman Jr. versus the Houston Texans, projected 12.82 fantasy points. Last week versus the Chiefs, 5 catches for 27 yards and a touchdown, 13.70 fantasy points. I mean, yeah, it was front-loaded by the touchdown. 5 catches, 27 yards. Pittman has been a surprise this season, but, the entire Colts team has been, if we're being honest. Despite Michael Pittman being ranked as the 10th overall receiver in Sleeper right now, which is very surprising to me, he struggled tremendously the last 2 games played against the Falcons and Chiefs. The last 2 games, he's had 7 catches for 46 yards and a touchdown, only 17.6 fantasy points. Clearly front-loaded by that touchdown reception, as I said. This week the Colts play the Texans, and that's not good news for Michael Pittman Jr. After 12 weeks, the Texans have the best-ranked defense in the NFL. The Browns are actually second, David. The third best passing defense, only allowing 172 yards a game and 10 passing touchdowns this season. Not to mention they have a guy named Derek Stingley Jr., who's an elite NFL cornerback. He'll be on him like white on rice all day. I expect this to be a bad day for Michael Pittman Jr., continuing his woes from the last 2 games played. I do like this Colts team. I think other guys will succeed. I just don't think he will. That's why he's my second skunk for this week.
Yeah, I like that pick. And that offense seems to be coming off of the high and falling off of a cliff, it looks like. Jonathan Taylor was stopped last week, and they lost, and so I'm interested to see how they move forward and figure things out. It's
kind of hard to beat the Chiefs and the refs and the NFL, but whatever.
Yeah, 2 against 1's hard.
3 against 1, maybe. All right, going on to do you have any more skunks? I'm sorry.
No, that was it.
Okay, going on to our next segment. This segment is the fantasy fireworks segment. Basically, which team do we which team do we think can produce the most points? Last week, I picked the Colts versus the Chiefs. I thought that was a really, really good game. Came down to the wire there. This week, I'm going to pick the Chiefs versus the Cowboys. Chiefs are 6-7. They have the fifth best total offense, 6th best defense. Patrick Mahomes, 3rd overall quarterback. Like you said, Kareem Hunt had a really, really good game last week. Pacheco is coming back. Rashee Rice has looked really good. He was out the first 6 games, 34 catches, 394 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Last week, 8 catches, 141 yards. Really, really good. I think Travis Kelce is the 3rd overall tight end. Just a really, really fun offense that this Chiefs team is producing. And then they're going against the Cowboys, who are the best offense in the NFL. Number 1 in offense, number 1 in passing. And they have the worst defense. So the Chiefs should dominate there. But Dak Prescott, top 5 running back. Javonte Williams, 8th overall running back. CeeDee Lamb is CeeDee Lamb. He's been out a few games, but it's still a very, very good back. George Pickens, 2nd overall receiver. Looks absolutely amazing. Jake Ferguson, 2nd overall tight end. So many players are going to get so many points this game. It's just going to be all over the place. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So this Chiefs versus Cowboys is definitely, I think, going to produce a ton of fireworks this week. Week 13.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I like that a lot. The Chiefs seem to be humming on all cylinders, and the Cowboys' offense, at the very least, should be pretty exciting because George Pickens has been tearing it up lately.
Yeah,
I like that. So last week I had the Philadelphia Eagles at the Dallas Cowboys, and it turned out to be a really good game with Dallas coming back all the way to the end and Philadelphia blowing a 21-point lead. But yeah, fantasy-wise, I think there was a lot of good players for that too. So definitely a fun one. This week, I've got a matchup that I think is a little bit riskier, but something that I think could be pretty explosive. That would be the New York Giants at the New England Patriots.
Oh, not where I thought you were going. Okay.
Oh, what did you think I was going to do?
That's all right. I thought you were going to go Browns again.
No, I did not. So the Giants' offense looked pretty explosive last week and made it all the way to overtime. Jameis Winston threw for a couple of touchdowns and caught a touchdown as well. So that looks pretty exciting from there. If he's streaming, he could be a viable streaming option at quarterback if you're looking for somebody. And then the New England Patriots, they are just, as Master said, humming on all cylinders, and that offense looks really good. What I like most about this matchup is that both of those defenses are not dominant, and so I think there could be a lot of explosive plays and big, deep shots taken. We all know that Jameis is a gunslinger and will throw it all over the place. So I expect there to be lots of passing touchdowns and lots of just exciting big plays. So definitely one to watch.
Yeah, that was a good pick. On YouTube real quick, Princess Erilyn said, Hi, Erilyn. Hope you're doing good. Have a good holiday, good Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks for watching. All right, next segment we're going on. This is called our long shot lineup. These are guys who aren't the best at their position, aren't the worst, they're not necessarily sleepers. They're just guys who we think will produce really well this week specifically. We'll go over a quarterback, a running back, 2 receivers, a tight end, and a flex. First, I want to go over last week's mine. My quarterback at Jacoby Brissett versus the Jaguars ended up having 19.68 fantasy points. Stud. Jacoby Brissett's been awesome so far since he's been starting. Running back at Travis Etienne, 21.10 fantasy points. Stud. T. Higgins versus the Patriots, 5 catches on 6 targets for 31 yards. Ended up getting concussion in the game, so I don't blame him. Still had me 8 fantasy points. I thought that was really good, despite his head getting hurt. Second wide receiver, Robert Dunze versus the Steelers, had me 8.30 fantasy points. Not that great. George Kittle versus the Panthers was my tight end, 13.8 fantasy points. I'll take that. And then Tech McMillan was my flex versus the 49ers. He had 11.50 fantasy points. Did get a tight end. I'll take that as well. If you would have went with this lineup, you would have scored 82.48 fantasy points last week. Not bad at all. So,
yeah, not too shabby. Last week I went in with a very bold lineup, I should say, and I had Shedeur Sanders as my starting quarterback of the long shot lineup. He scored 13.35 points, so very meh type of a play.
It's not bad for a start.
For a first start, yeah, he played well, but fantasy-wise, just meh. Then my first running back that I had was Sean Tucker. He scored 5.1 points, so not great. Cedric Tillman had 1 point, my first wide receiver, also not great. Then I had Michael Wilson, who has been tearing it up, just as Jacoby Brissett has lately. He had 16.8 fantasy points, 10 catches for 118 yards, so he did really well there. Finally had a good hit. And then I had Harold Fannin as my tight end, who's really emerged as seems to be taking over as tight end 1 for that team.
Receiver 1.
Forward. Honestly, that too. So he had 6.4 fantasy points. What's really most dependent for this Browns team is if they score touchdowns. So whenever Harold Fannin scores a touchdown, he'll be fantasy gold. And when he's not, he'll just be middle of the pack. So, and then my flex, I had Kenneth Gainwell, who had 15.2 fantasy points. So pretty good. Had 10 rushes for 92 yards and caught 6 passes for 30 yards. So
there you go.
Pretty good.
All right, go ahead on to your quarterback for the long shot lineup this week.
My quarterback I have for the long shot lineup this week is Cam Ward, rookie quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. I know a lot of people probably aren't believers of him right now, but the last 2 weeks, they've pretty much said, screw it, whatever we're doing, we're just going to make sure that Cam Ward feels comfortable moving forward, and they have thrown the ball like no other team. He had 38 pass attempts 2 weeks ago. Last week, he had 42. They are just making sure that he feels comfortable reading defenses and comfortable throwing the ball. And this Jacksonville Jaguars secondary is very suspect, to say the least. So I expect Cam Ward to finally put on a showing that welcomes him to the NFL and puts a name out there for people to follow. I expect them to win this game. I expect them to throw the ball a lot, as I said, and I expect there to be a lot of big explosive plays for touchdowns. So I'm a kind of a believer in Cam Ward. I think he'll figure it out sooner rather than later, and I think it could start this week.
Who's his current receivers right now that are catching? If A.O. Manner's hurt, Calvin Ridley's on IR. I'm trying to see.
Yeah, A.O. Manner should be back.
All right, so Van Jefferson, Chimere Dike. Whew, we'll see. I mean, the only one I like there is the tight end, maybe Chiga Okonkwo. We'll see. I mean, if he's throwing the ball 45 times, hopefully someone's catching the ball. But I question his receivers at this point.
Yeah, that's fair.
But for a long shot lineup, that's a good pickup. So why not?
It's a long shot.
Yeah, why not? Week 13, my quarterback for the long shot lineup, Trevor Lawrence versus the Titans, projected 18.71 fantasy points. Listen, I understand Trevor Lawrence has had a less than stellar season so far this year. I often say Trevor Lawrence sucks. He does. He's had a pretty average ranking, as the 13th fantasy quarterback so far this season. 230 passes for 2,407 yards, 14 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. I like that he rushes, though. 54 rushes for 210 yards and 5 rushing touchdowns. Only 186.28 fantasy points so far this season. Not great. However, I will argue that his receivers have been struggling with health the entire season. Last week versus the Cardinals, Lawrence had an admirable outing, I would say. He went 18 of 30 for 256 yards and 3 touchdowns. Granted, he also had 3 interceptions and a fumble, but
there it is.
20.14 fantasy points on the week. But the Jaguars still are 7-4 on the season and currently have the 6th spot locked up in the AFC for the playoffs. This week, fortunately for Trevor Lawrence, the Jaguars play the Titans. The Titans have the 26th overall defense. They allow over 350 yards a game and 35 touchdowns this season. The Titans are the worst team in NFL, currently sitting at 1-10 and have zero direction on where they're going in the future. Logic tells me that Trevor Lawrence will progress off of those 3 touchdowns last week and hopefully will limit his turnovers due to playing the worst team in football. And have himself a good game. And that's why he is my Week 13 long shot lineup quarterback.
Yeah, I don't like that pick at all, if I'm being honest with you.
It's better than Cam Ward.
Oh, I just think that whole offense and team is just lucky. Their record should really not be what it is, and I think they're going to come crashing down to earth sooner rather than later.
I hope they do, because the Browns have the first round pick next year. But as of today, I guess next week we'll find out who is right between the battle between Cam Ward and Trevor Lawrence for the long shot lineup. So
we will find out.
All right, I'm going to go into my running back. My running back for the long shot lineup is Devin Neal versus the Dolphins, projected 12.30 fantasy points. Last week, after Alvin Kamara went down with the sprained MCL, Neal ran the ball 7 times for 18 yards, but he did have 5 catches on 5 passes for 43 yards, 11.10 fantasy points as just a guy jumping in when the starter got hurt. Devin Neal is a rookie this year. He's taken the 6th round out of Kansas. Some of you may not know too much about him. So I'll just read some of the notes I had going into the draft last season, summarizing them. Devin Neal is explosive, durable back with elite ball security and proven big playability, thriving in both gap and zone schemes. His vision, one-cut style, and lateral agility consistently created chunk gains, while steady growth as a receiver hints to untapped versatility. That's basically summarized a big page I had. I really liked him coming out of college. I projected him in the 4th round. He ended up going in the 6th round. I think he clearly fell just as many other running backs did in this last draft because the position was loaded. I thought the Saints got a steal in the 6th round during the draft, and I think that it finally shows this week. This week, Devin Neal will be the starter for the Saints and probably the foreseeable future. Did I mention that the Saints play the Dolphins this week as well? Miami is a 29th ranked rushing defense so far, allowing almost 150 rushing yards a game. This is the perfect first game for Devin Neal to get his first start. I honestly think that he may be the waiver pickup wire of the year, especially this late in the season. If you need a starting running back, Devin Neal is my long shot lineup running back for Week 13.
Yeah, that's a great pick. I love that. The opportunities there. The rookie quarterback is not going to be relied on as heavily, and so I think they will feed him the ball a ton. Yeah. So I like that a lot. My first running back for the long shot lineup is also a rookie running back, and that would be Dylan Sampson. We saw a huge increase in snap percentages from Dylan Sampson from last week to this week. It went from 11% of snaps all the way up to 42%. So there's a huge increase there. And I think that the Browns team is trying to get both of these rookie running backs as many touches and uses as they can. And I expect with a pretty stout run defense that the 49ers have, I expect Dylan Sampson to be used a lot in the passing game, whether that be screen passes like we saw last week or small checkdowns from Shedeur Sanders. So I think that Dylan Sampson is somebody who's going to emerge moving forward as a running back for the future for the Browns, both in the pass game and the run game. But I think in the pass games where he'll find his most success early. What's also really interesting? There was another Browns rookie running back who had a breakout game against the Raiders and then went on to be a fan favorite. And do you know who that was?
Nick Chubb.
Nick Chubb, that's right. He also had very few touches that game and did the most with it. And look what happened after that.
Who was the starter for that game? Do you remember?
Carlos Hyde.
Yeah, weird
Come
times.
Very weird
Are
times.
you concerned with Dylan Sampson with the rumors with Tommy Rees possibly leaving as soon as this week to go be the head coach at UCLA? Vegas has him as the lead right now for the head coach at UCLA. What do you think about that? Well,
yeah, that's a great question.
yeah.
I don't think that really affects Dylan Sampson that much. I think it might affect that offense for a little bit moving forward.
Right. Especially if it goes back to Kevin Stefanski because he sucks. So
we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, interesting. Good pick though. I mean, his touchdown last week was awesome. So. All right, going into my wide receiver. Once again, this is the long shot lineup. These are not guys who are the best in their position or the worst or sleepers. They're just guys who we think will have a good week this week, kind of middle of the road. My wide receiver for Week 13 long shot lineup is Rashee Rice versus the Cowboys. I love me some Rashee Rice. Projected 18.78 fantasy points.
Is he on your Pookie list yet?
No, not yet. I did add somebody on my Pookie list last week, though.
Man, we got to get a graphic of this Pookie list.
I got a couple, so. Last week versus the Colts, Rashee had 8 catches on 12 targets for 141 yards, 26.10 fantasy points. Tech McMillan was the guy who I added on my Pookie list last week, by the way. Since returning, right now we're talking about Rashee Rice, though. Since returning after his 6-game suspension and his injury that predates to Week 4 of 2024. So honestly, the guy hasn't played since Week 4 of 2024 until he played this week at Week 7. Rashee has had 34 catches for 394 yards and 3 touchdowns since returning. I mean, to compare, we're Browns fans here. Jerry Jeudy, the Browns' top receiver, has had 32 catches for 395 yards and 1 touchdown and has played all season. So Jeudy has 2 less catches, 1 more yard, and 2 less touchdowns than Rashee Rice, and Rice missed the first 6 games. Rashee Rice is so good, you need to put respect on his name. I mean, it's crazy. This week, the Chiefs play the Cowboys. Luckily for the Chiefs, as high-powered as the Cowboys' offense is, as I talked earlier, their defense is hot garbage. 30th NFL, 252 passing yards a game, and 24 whopping passing touchdowns. This Cowboys versus Chiefs game on Thanksgiving is going to be so much fun to watch, guys. I think that Rashee Rice has a good chance of eating the turkey leg at the end of the game tomorrow. I think, and that's why he's my first Week 13 long shot lineup receiver. Sorry, I can't read.
You're good. Chad Bryan on YouTube said, "We need the Pookie list."
What's up? So Chad is my co-host on the Inside Edge Network's NFL and Browns pregame show every Sunday at 11. So check us out. Chad, I will update a Pookie list. Maybe we'll have one updated for Sunday for our show.
That would be great.
Thanks for watching, buddy.
All right, my first wide receiver for the long shot lineup is Christian Watson. Wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers. So Christian Watson has really been a tale of 2 halves for this season. He was out for most of the first half of the season, came back in Week 9, Week 8 actually, and kind of got eased back into things. His snap percentage was about 50% of the time, and then the last 2 weeks he has really emerged, 82% and 79% of snaps. And so they're definitely getting him back more involved, and he's also had a lot more targets, 5 targets to 7 targets the last 2 weeks. And so I expect that to keep climbing, keep continuing to improve, and I expect him to kind of cement himself as a wide receiver 1 while Jaden Reed is still out, while they're still trying to figure out what Matthew Golden is, and he's still battling injury. I expect them to rely on Christian Watson a lot, and he should do really well for fantasy. So in a big game matchup against the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving, I do expect them to do well, and I expect Christian Watson to be the focal point and kind of the solution for that offense moving forward.
I'm going to double down. I actually am a huge fan of Christian Watson as well. I think that's a good pick. So,
thanks.
Yes. Do you want to do your second receiver?
Sure, yeah. I'll do my second one. My second one would be Andre Iosivas, the wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. T. Higgins is out with a concussion, looked pretty severe. Yeah. Nobody knows how long he'll be out for. Jamar Chase just came off of a suspension, and Joe Burrow is coming back. So, yeah, obviously every team is going to be honing in on Jamar Chase, and I think that will leave Iosivas a lot of open space underneath to be a check-down person for Joe Burrow as he gets back into the swing of things. He may not be the largest yards per reception, but I think he will get a lot of targets because they will want to get Joe Burrow feeling comfortable again, and they will throw the ball a lot. So I expect Iosivas to play well, get a lot of targets, maybe score a touchdown. So I expect him to be a sneaky pick this week.
That is sneaky. I mean, opportunities there, especially with T. Higgins down, so that's a good pick. My second receiver for the long shot lineup, is Troy Franklin versus the Commanders, projected
like that pick.
10.44 fantasy points. The Broncos had a bye last week. Week 11, they played the Chiefs. Franklin had 4 catches for 84 yards. Troy Franklin, seems to have taken the wide receiver one away from Cortland Sutton in Denver. It doesn't hurt that Franklin and Bo Nix have chemistry with each other that predates the NFL back at Oregon. Since week 7, Franklin has had a ton of targets, 45 targets in 5 games. It's absolutely unreal. His production hasn't been terribly high, but it isn't bad. 22 catches for 259 yards, 4 touchdowns, 78.6 fantasy points in the last 5 games. This week, the Broncos play the Commanders. The Commanders have a really, really, really bad defense. 29th overall, almost 250 passing yards per game and 22 passing touchdowns this season. The Broncos are 9-2 and sitting on top of the AFC West, and they're going against a really bad Commanders team. I think Troy Franklin is going to have himself a great week. That's why he's my second long shot lineup receiver. Go ahead.
No, good. You good. I was just gonna say that's a great pick. I almost put him on my list too. Believe
nice.
It or not. So
I'm gonna go on to my tight end. My tight end for the long shot lineup, week 13, is Brenton Strange. He's for the Jaguars versus the Titans, projected 10.35 fantasy points. Okay. In the offseason, it was rumored that Brenton Strange was a player who was going to be one of those next tight ends up, the Trey McBride route to the NFL, if you will. Basically a guy who's really good tight end, but it took him a few years to get going for one reason or another. Turns out we did have one of those breakout seasons for a tight end this year, but it was Tucker Kraft until he tore his ACL. There's a lot of optimists that Brenton Strange will have a similar breakout career. He's played decently for the first 4 games of the season before he got injured. 22 catches on 24 targets for 182 yards, catching pretty much everything. But that was competing for targets with Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter on the team. Last week was his first week back after missing 5 games. 5 catches on 5 targets for 93 yards for 14.3 fantasy points. Brenton Strange finds himself in an interesting position this late into the season. Not a lot of people know about him, but I honestly think that he could become the next breakout tight end. And it may be happening for the playoff push. He now has even a clearer path to produce on the field. The Jaguars pass catchers are riddled with injuries. Brian Thomas Jr. may be back this week after missing the last 3 games, but he has struggled a lot this season with the sophomore slump. Oh my gosh, I cannot talk today. Sorry, guys. And the Jaguars are playing the Titans. Like I said earlier, the Titans given up 56 catches for 501 yards and 3 touchdowns, 124 fantasy points against tight ends this year. A lot of opportunities here for Brenton Strange to do something. I'm going to bet on him this week to be my 13-week long shot lineup tight end. I think he's going to do something. So,
yeah, I like that pick a lot. I think he has really emerged and feeling a lot more comfortable in that offense. So, good pick.
Sorry, it's freezing in my basement, so I'm trying to.
Oh, you're good. I have my heat blowing straight on me, so I'm dying of heat right now. So my tight end that I have for the long shot lineup would be Andre Gadsden, tight end for the LA Chargers. Somebody who has really emerged on the scene this year as a rookie tight end, and they're coming off of their bye week. They're playing against the Raiders, and we just saw the Raiders kind of let the Browns light up their defense, and I expect that the Chargers should have a huge comeback game against them coming off of their bye and just being like, all right, we're the Chargers again. This is what we do. And I expect Gadsden to be a big part of that. I expect him to catch a lot of touchdowns. I would expect probably 2 touchdowns to start. I think that he could be a really, really great red zone threat for them moving forward, and somebody that Justin Herbert relies on a lot in the red zone, and somebody that can make a big touchdown play. So big fan of him. The last 4 weeks actually, before their bye, he had 5 targets, 6 targets, 5 targets, 9 targets. So definitely somebody that is relied on a lot in that passing game, and I think should continue to get more and more targets.
There you go. Nice. That's a good pick. Go into your flex for me.
Yeah, my flex is a really big fan favorite of mine, Alec Manor. If he plays this week, which it looks like he's going to, I expect him to be the wide receiver 1 for Cam Ward this week. And as I said earlier, that Jacksonville team is, especially that secondary, is sus, to say the least. If they play Greg Newsome, That would be really good news.
Even better for him, yeah, because Greg Newsome sucks.
So, yeah, I expect Alec Airminer to really cement himself as a wide receiver 1 for that team moving forward. As you mentioned, there's really no other options outside of him, and I think that the Titans are kind of relying on him to become that wide receiver 1. So I expect with the amount of throwing that Cam Ward is doing, somebody's got to be the beneficiary of that, and I expect Alec to be that person. He could be in for a really big, dominant game moving forward against a secondary that is very weak, and I expect them to pull out a win, in all honesty. So,
all right.
There you have it.
All right, going over, this is the last one for the long shot lineup. This is my flex. I'm going with Nico Collins versus the Colts. Obviously, the Texans wide receiver. Projected 16.32 fantasy points. In his last 5 games played, he has had an ungodly amount of targets, 49 targets. He's got 30 of those for 385 yards and a touchdown, 78 fantasy points, and that's with backup QB Davis Mills throwing the ball for the last 4 games. This week, the Texans play the Colts. I do love this Colts team. Their offense is electric, very, very electric. I probably talk about it every single week. However, the defense, especially their passing defense, is pretty bad. They rank 28th in passing defense, allowing 245.4 passing yards per game and 16 total touchdowns this season. The Texans are hopeful that C.J. Stroud will be healthy enough to play from his concussion. I think he will play. That's let them out 3.5 of the last games. If the case is that he plays, I'd expect Nico Collins to stack on what he's already done recently, especially against a bad Colts pass defense. I think he's going to have a good week this week 13. So he's my long shot lineup flex.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. He is somebody who seems to be doing really well with Davis Mills. So,
yeah,
great pick.
So hopefully he stacks that with Stroud, who's obviously a better quarterback. So.
Oh, yeah.
All right. We doing legacy lineup next?
Legacy lineup. Let's do it.
All right. So legacy lineup. This is for DFS players. We'll just go over quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end. This is not betting advice. This is just who we think will score the most fantasy points out of those positions this week. It's just for fun. Let's get over it. Go ahead and go over it. Let's go over it. Excuse me. Go ahead and go over your last week's legacy lineup, David.
Yeah, so last week I feel like I did pretty good for the legacy lineup. I had Sam Darnold at quarterback. He scored 24 points against Tennessee, threw for 244 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then the only weak spot of my picks was Jonathan Taylor against Kansas City. Scored 7.6 points, only ran the ball for 58 yards, and that was pretty much it. So they contained him pretty well. Right. But then the rest of my team just dominated. So Jackson Smith-Njigba had 33 points, 167 yards and a touchdown. Absolute domination. Jeez. And then Hunter Henry also put up 21 points, just dominated 115 yards and a touchdown. Like, that team did really, really well. If you put all that together, that is approximately 83 points just between the 4 of them. So really good team overall.
I'm going to add mine together real quick.
I just did quick math in my head. So that
you were a math major and I was not. So. All right, I got mine. All right, so my last week for the legacy lineup, my quarterback is Matthew Stafford versus the Buccaneers. 25 of 35 for 273 yards, 3 touchdowns, 22.92 fantasy points. Not bad. Bijan Robinson versus the Saints. He had me 14.7 fantasy points. Not the best game for him, but okay, but not great for the legacy lineup, though. I had George Pickens. That's my wide receiver. 9 catches, 146 yards, and a touchdown. He's the second overall wide receiver right now on Sleeper. 31.10 fantasy points. Absolute smash. And then I had Travis Kelce versus the Colts, 4 catches for 43 yards, 8.4 fantasy points. Not super great there. Going into my quarterback for the legacy lineup, I am picking Lamar Jackson versus the Bengals. Somebody who David listed as a skunk. As a skunk, I have as a legacy lineup. This is a huge discrepancy here. Projected 22.03 fantasy points. Hear me out, David.
I'm listening. Right. I'm listening.
Lamar came back from injury week 9, and the Ravens have completely turned their team around. The Ravens went from 2-5 at the bottom of the division to 6-5, and now are at the top of the AFC North, and probably going to make the playoffs, which is crazy. Although he hasn't been playing his best football due to lingering injuries, Lamar is still a dynamic playmaker. Since he's been back, he's thrown the ball 100 times, completed 62 balls for 726 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. 55.64 fantasy points. Not awful. Not bad. Despite his recent struggles, I think that this is the game where he turns it around. Thursday Night Football on Thanksgiving with Joe Burrow back at quarterback for the Bengals. This is where Lamar Jackson is going to shine, and it should be a very fun game to watch. The Bengals defense is the worst passing defense in the NFL. They give up 259.8 passing yards and have given up the most passing touchdowns in the NFL this year with 26. This game is where Lamar Jackson is going to shine. I think he's going to do well this week, tomorrow, on Thanksgiving. That's why he's my legacy lineup quarterback, because he's still Lamar Jackson going against the shittiest defense in the NFL. So
we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, I hope that he gets back to his form because he's fun to watch when he is. But he just seems to not be himself, not be running around.
Because he's hurt.
Scrambling. Oh, sure.
He hasn't been practicing this week because of toe injury. Lingering injuries will cause a running quarterback like that to not be himself. Hopefully he gets healthy and he'll continue to show that he's Lamar. But I'm still not going to root against him. I think this week he's going to dominate against a really bad defense. So.
We'll see. We're on some opposite ends here.
We
this
are.
Week,
This is
and
fun.
I kind of like it. Yeah.
My
quarterback that I've got for this week for the legacy lineup is Patrick Mahomes going up against the Dallas Cowboys.
Duh.
Yeah. The Cowboys. We saw Patrick Mahomes just light it up last week. And just really seemed to be looking more like himself in that MVP candidate that we've seen in years past from him, and I think this Dallas Cowboys defense is atrocious. You talked about the Cincinnati Bengals defense being bad. This one is also bad. The only reason why people enjoy watching the Cowboys is because of the offense. And so I expect Patrick Mahomes to really light it up again. I expect there to be some big explosive plays again on primetime Thanksgiving Day. I mean, really all these games on Thanksgiving are pretty monster games, pretty well done by the NFL. So
yeah, we're going to have a fun holiday tomorrow, guys.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I expect Patrick Mahomes to just light it up and really rely on Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy. I expect there to be some really, really fun and big plays.
There you go. Nice. Drop your running back for me, brother.
Oh, my running back is Derrick Henry, the running back for the Baltimore Ravens. You mentioned how Baltimore has had some success since Lamar's returned. I want to give some of that credit to Lamar, but I really think that's because they figured out how to get that running game going. In the last handful of weeks, let me pull this up because I had it up and then I lost it. Derrick Henry has been on a tear. So, the last 4 weeks, let me just pull it up. He has been the running back 8, running back 14, running back 7, and running back 4. That has been absolute dynamite. Yeah. And then 1 week in there, he was running back 23, but that was closer to the bye week. And so he has just been on another level, looking to come back for vengeance from the rough start that he had to the start of the season. And I think that he's the reason why the Ravens team has had so much success lately. He's kind of made up for the lack of running that Lamar has been able to do, and I think that has been great for him. He's had 21 carries the last week, 20 carries a week before that, 18 carries a week before that. He has just been a monster, and I expect him to score a lot more touchdowns and get a lot of those same carries moving forward against a very weak Cincinnati team.
It's a good pick. I agree with that. I just also think Lamar will be along with him. So
I hope he is, but I'm not seeing it yet.
There you go. So. All right, my legacy lineup running back for week 13, Bijan Robinson versus the Jets, projected 21.03 fantasy points. Last week versus the Saints, Bijan ran the ball 14 times for 70 yards, 3 catches, 37 yards, 14.7 fantasy points. Not the best game, but still pretty good. He's the 5th ranked running back on Sleeper. He's a PPR monster. He's ran the ball 172 times for 853 yards, 4 touchdowns, and then caught the ball 49 times for 543 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. 224.6 fantasy points so far this season. And this week, the Falcons play the Jets. The Jets have struggled as a bottom half defense against the run all season, allowing over almost 130 yards and 12 touchdowns on the ground. After trading away their star defensive players in Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner, and now the geriatric Kirk Cousins quarterback is starting, and the wide receiver 1, Drake London, is being doubtful for the week. Bijan Robinson is going to have a great game, and I think it's going to happen against a Jets team that for sure punted on the season when they traded away. They had a good defense and they traded away their best players. I think Bijan Robinson is going to play very well this week. He's my legacy lineup running back for week 13.
Yeah, that's a good pick. That Jets team's awful, and he should really benefit from Kirk Cousins being there and being the Checkdown Charlie that he is. Checkdown Kirk is what I should have called him. So.
Yikes. All right. I'll go to do my wide receiver real quick. My wide receiver for the legacy lineup week 13, Jamar Chase versus the Ravens, projected 20.46 fantasy points. Boy, oh boy, I am rubbing my hands together for this matchup. This game is gonna be so much fun. For the first game back for Joe Burrow, Bengals versus the Ravens on Thanksgiving. It's gonna be so much
Thanksgiving night too.
Dude, seriously, it's gonna be so much fun for fantasy managers.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that the Bengals offense is going to try and make a statement in front of the entire NFL, especially since Joe Burrow's it's going to be his first game back. He looks at the state of this football team and it's in disarray. Jamar Chase has had a week off of rest last week as his team played against the Patriots because the week before he had a disagreement with Jalen Ramsey of the Steelers and was suspended for allegedly spitting him in his face, which is absolutely disgusting.
I'd also swing too.
Hands at that point, brother. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The Ravens have the 24th overall passing defense, allowing 230 passing yards, 16 touchdowns. It's already reported that T. Higgins is out for this game after obtaining that concussion last week. The Bengals are going to throw to Jamar Chase early and often. Joe Burrow is going to want to shine tomorrow, and Jamar Chase is going to be that toy that's going to shine with them. He is my Week 13 legacy lineup receiver.
Yeah, that's a good pick. He should be really on another level because he's missing the game and getting his buddy Joe Burrow back. So I expect some good plays from him. My wide receiver that I have this week is none other than Rashee Rice. Man, I think that Dallas Cowboys team, as I said over and over again, is just their defense is putrid. I think Rashee Rice is just going to be somebody who is going to be a yak monster this week. I expect there to just be a lot of getting him open into open space and just running on green grass. This Chiefs team is really hitting their stride here at the right moments, coming down the stretch of the season, and I expect that Rashee Rice is going to be a huge part of them making their playoff push and pushing for another Super Bowl. So, start him. He's going to be dominant.
No, that's a great pick. Go ahead and do your tight end for me.
My tight end is none other than my Pookie, Brock Bowers. So the Raiders just got destroyed by the Browns, fired their offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly, and what does that leave us? The only sure thing on that offense, which is Brock Bowers. He's going to be a PPR machine moving forward, I think. They're going to be a team that wants to try and just start outscoring teams and trying to get the ball out quickly, and I think Brock Bowers will be a huge benefactor of that. Their offensive line is just horrendous. Their schemes that they have going forward or recently have not been great, and I think they've really lost sight of their two best weapons, Ashton Jeanty and Brock Bowers. And so I think that if they can get Brock Bowers more looks, more targets, more plays specifically designed for him getting open, that could be really good things for him moving forward, and the end of the season could be really, really bright for him. So expect him to be a PPR machine.
I love Brock Bowers. I hate Geno Smith. So
same, but
yeah, we'll see. I mean, he's still Brock Bowers. I'm not betting against him. He was clearly the tight end one as a rookie last year for a reason. He's obviously a beast. Even at Georgia, he was the lead receiver in a room with A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy. Excuse me, Lad McConkey. He was still the guy over all those guys. So absolute beast. I get it. I just don't trust that offense, the offensive line, or their quarterback, but I still love that player. My tight end for the legacy lineup week 13, Travis Kelce versus the Cowboys, projected 13.06 fantasy points. Last week versus the Colts, 4 catches, 43 yards. I talked about that. 8.4 fantasy points. Currently still ranked the tight end 3 on Sleeper. This week going against the Cowboys, their offensive good, their defense is bad. We talked about this game a ton. I'm not going to keep on going into it. They've given up 68 catches for 633 yards and 3 touchdowns, 83.30 fantasy points against tight ends this year. That's important. There's plenty of opportunity for Travis Kelce to have a great game against the bottom 3 defense. He's a no-brainer for me. He's my Week 13 legacy lineup tight end.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. All right. Well, let's just get into our next segment.
Yeah.
And hopefully stop talking about the Cowboys and the Chiefs.
Sleepers
and creepers. So this segment, we talk about waiver wire additions to pick up and waiver wire additions to avoid or just drop. I'll talk through my ones that I had last week because I feel like I did a pretty good job. I said go and get Shedeur Sanders. He was my first one that I mentioned, and I feel like it's going to be a benefit if you listened and got him. He may not have had the hottest start fantasy-wise in week one, but he is somebody that I think can continue to grow and learn and develop in this offense. And I think the sky could be the limit for him. He's shown big playability. That 66-yard touchdown pass to Dylan Sampson was really good. That 40-yard, 50-yard pass to Isaiah Bond was really exciting. And I think he's starting to make a name for himself. And I think that confidence is going to be his key moving forward. So I expect more big shots out of him, more big plays. And I think that could be just the shot in the arm that this Browns offense needs. So if you got him, great. If you didn't, go see if he's available because he could be good for your team in a playoff push moving forward. My other picks that I had were Michael Wilson, wide receiver for the Cardinals. He has been somebody that has just dominated the last few weeks and looks to continue to do so as long as Jacoby Brissett is throwing him the ball. Even if Marvin Harrison Jr. comes back, I still expect Michael Wilson to carve out a niche role for himself and still do really well. His big play ability is just shown and flourished the last few weeks, and I think that is going to be a big benefit of his moving forward and kind of cemented himself as a top target wide receiver in that offense. And then the last one that I had was Darnell Mooney, somebody that Mosser hated last week.
I hate him every week.
Man, he actually played pretty well last week. Kirk Cousins came in. They have chemistry. Darnell Mooney stepped in and kind of took over that wide receiver one role and looked to hit the ground running. So I was pretty excited about that. So this week, I got 3 more names for you that I think you should watch. John Mechie, wide receiver for the Jets. That offense is putrid. They really have no pass catching weapons outside of John Mechie, it looks like. He had 7 targets, 5 catches last week. I think that he's going to be the only fantasy relevant wide receiver in that room moving forward. And so if he's available, go get him. Could be somebody that could help your team down the stretch. Omarion Hampton, he was kind of forgotten about for a handful of weeks being on IR, and hopefully some teams stashed them on their IR spots. But if they did not and they dropped them, go pick him up. This guy is a legit running back one and should really, really help out that Chargers offense as they move forward towards the end of the season. It should help your fantasy team moving forward too. And last but not least, Jaden Higgins, somebody who's really emerged and connected really well with Davis Mills as quarterback for the Texans, and has kind of come to his own as a rookie wide receiver in the league, and has been somebody that has, really done well the last few weeks. I think he's caught a touchdown on each of the last 2 weeks, and has done really, really well fantasy-wise. So go pick him up. He looks like he's developing and continuing to learn and grow, and I expect more big plays from him.
There you go. All right, my last week's sleepers. Once again, this is sleepers and creepers. My first sleeper was Tyrell Shavers, Buffalo receiver. Was 25% owned on rosters last week. Last week versus Houston, he was in for 39% of the snaps, but had no catches for 0 fantasy points, and now is rostered by 7% of leagues on sleepers, so it got dropped a ton. It's clear that Khalil Shakir is the wide receiver one and had the numbers last week to back it up. 8 catches for 110 yards. It was Shavers week 11 against the Buccaneers when he had 4 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown for 20 fantasy points. He was the wide receiver one. Granted, they were playing the Houston Texans defense, which is the best in the NFL. Nonetheless, he's probably unrosterable this late in the season, especially with questionable, they don't know who really the true wide receivers are on that team. So I don't know. I probably would drop him at this point. My second sleeper, Greg Dortch, Cardinals wide receiver, owned by 17% of leagues on sleeper last week, and now he's owned by 20, so went up 3%. Last week versus the Jaguars, 6 catches on 9 targets, 53 yards, and a touchdown. He also does kick returns in case your league counts those. 5 kick returns, 127 yards, 16.8 fantasy points last week. Last 2 weeks, 12 catches on 15 targets, 119 yards, 2 touchdowns, 35.40 fantasy points. Those are great numbers. Obviously, the wide receiver one there is Marvin Harrison Jr., but he's been out for the past 2 games due to his appendix getting removed. I still like Greg Dortch. That goes into my Week 13 first sleeper. In place of Marvin Harrison Jr., the wide receiver there one has been Michael Wilson. So he is my Week 12 first sleeper. He has had the bulk of receptions the wide receiver room in Arizona the last 2 games in Marvin Harrison's absence. He's had 25 catches on 33 targets, 303 yards, 500. I'm sorry, my gosh, it's getting late, guys. 57.3 fantasy points. Michael Wilson is only owned in 81% of your leagues right now. The last updates from Marvin Harrison Jr. were from Monday, where Cardinal coach Jonathan Gannon did not have any updates on when he will start this week or not. I'm doubting he will. There are leagues out there where Michael Wilson is available. He may be the snag of the year as long as Marvis is unwell and can't play. So Michael Wilson is my first sleeper for week 13, going off of David. My second sleeper for week 13, I talked about him earlier, but Devin Neal the Saints rookie running back only is rostered in 12% of leagues right now on sleeper. At least this morning. I know that I talked about him earlier, but I really like this prospect coming out of Kansas. And now he's starting running back for the Saints. 12% of leagues is crazy. I said earlier, he could be a league winner. If you haven't picked him up, you need to. Why haven't you? It's insane. As I said, they play the Dolphins this week, who ranked 29th in the rushing defense. This is the perfect game for Devin Neal for first start. Go grab him. Odds are he's available in your league. He is a starting running back. Why wouldn't you? Okay, yeah. Do you want me to go over my creepers for last week? Do you want to do it, Dave?
You do your creepers. Yeah, go for it.
All right, my first creeper for last week was Keon Coleman versus the Buccaneers, owned 49% of leagues, now owned in 42% of leagues. Well, he was a healthy scratch now for back-to-back weeks. In week 11, it was reported that he was going to be a healthy scratch, and that was the same decision last week. Listen, a guy's only as valuable as their production on the field, and he's not getting on the field for a team that is desperate for wide receivers. This guy may be toast. He's owned in 42% of leagues right now, and that's way too high. I get it if it's a dynasty league, obviously keep him, but any redraft or guillotine league, he's just wasting a spot on your roster. You just need to drop him at this point, especially if he's not even going to play.
Question about that. With the Bills releasing Elijah Moore, you think that opens up more opportunity for Keon Coleman or no?
No, they just picked someone up. I forget.
Brandon Cooks?
Yes, Brandon Cooks. I think that was just a replacement for Cooks. I don't think
Gotcha.
I think Coleman will still, be a healthy scratch. They don't trust him, so.
Yeah.
My second creeper for this week is Kamani Vidal. Last week he was on bye. He is owned in 79% of leagues right now. Okay, that's insane. The dude is, like I talked about it last week a little bit. He's had this trend of playing one good game and then shitting the bed the next game, and it's really, really weird, to be honest. I'll go over this again. So since he started week 5, these are his fantasy points for the following weeks. Week 5, 2.9. Week 6, 28.8. Week 7, 7.5. Week 8, 20.7. Week 9, 3. Week 10, 17.8. Week 11, 3.2. Every single week, he has a high game, and the next week he has a low game. It's very strange. One of the strangest things I've seen in modern fantasy football. As I said last week, the Chargers were on bye. He's owned in 71% of leagues, and that's still way too high. Yesterday, it was reported, as David said, that Omarion Hampton is going to come back soon. He's the Chargers' first-round rookie running back. He's clear to play Sunday. I don't know if he'll play. It's just depending on how much he's able to practice this week. Regardless, it seems that Vidal's time is ticking for sure. Omarion Hampton is RB1 and the instant he comes back. So, yeah.
Is that all your creepers?
Those are my creepers for last week, yeah, if you want to go over yours.
Gotcha. Yeah, so last week I had Bill Krosky-Merritt. Just been absolutely so disappointing this year.
So bad.
For so many people. Keon Coleman as well. So we already talked about him. Not going to go into too much depth there. And Rachaad White, another running back that has just been disappointing as well. So I'm not going to belabor the point. They all suck.
You're good. Go over your creepers for this week, brother.
So my creepers for this week. First one that I have is Isaiah Pacheco. He is somebody that is coming off of an injury. So everybody's probably all excited about that. But we just saw Kareem Hunt be the first Chiefs running back this year to go over 100 yards, and I think that speaks to just how inefficient Isaiah Pacheco has been. Somebody that I just do not trust anymore moving forward. The Chiefs also just picked up Dameon Pierce and added him to their team. Probably going to be getting into some of that rotation as well, and so I just think that whole running back room just looks a little bit lost right now, and Kareem Hunt is kind of the leader, and until then, I just don't trust Isaiah Pacheco, and I would not start him. I probably wouldn't even roster him at this point. Yeah, I just can't trust him. Another running back that I don't trust is Bashal Tutin, a running back for the Jaguars. Somebody who, I
said toot. Sorry.
You're good. Somebody at the start of this year had a lot of hope that he would emerge as a running back 1 for that team moving forward, and then Travis Etienne was like, that's not going to happen. Somebody that had just not been efficient with his carries, not been efficient with his touches, and looks to just need some more time to learn and develop in the league. It's not that I don't believe in the player, but I think that he just needs some more time to grow into who he is as a player and really develop. So I would not trust him right now. If you're in a dynasty league, I'd still stash him, but otherwise, I probably just cut him and pick somebody else up. Probably somebody like Devin Neal, because that's a great running back right now. And then my last pick that I've got is Ricky Pearsall. It is clear and apparent as day that 49ers offense is nothing like it once was. That lack of weapons around Brock Purdy is drastic. Ricky Pearsall was supposed to be somebody that's supposed to emerge as the leading wide receiver in that room and has just failed to do so. Obviously, George Kittle's still a weapon there, but outside of that, you really got nobody else. And so
Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, well, yeah.
One of the best running backs.
Talking about receivers.
Okay, hold on. Let me see something.
Yes, he's a great receiving back, too. You're not wrong. He is an all-around great player. But wide receiver.
785 receiving yards this year with 5 receiving touchdowns.
Yeah, you're right. I agree. But yes, wide receiver-wise, they don't have any weapons, and Ricky Pearsall was supposed to be somebody that could be trusted on, and the opportunity's there, so you can stash him if you want to, but I am just avoiding him now at all costs, and going up against a Browns team that's really, really great at forcing pressure, and the secondary is swarming, I would probably stay away from him.
There you go. All right, my Week 13 creepers. We're going to get through this, and we're going to get out of here. My first one, Joe Flacco, for obvious reasons. Burrow is irrelevant. Sorry, Flacco is relevant as long as Joe Burrow is back and stays healthy. He's rostered 40% of leagues. Tuesday, while talking to the media, Joe Burrow said he will not sit if he's healthy enough to play. Quote, "I'm not going to live my life and play this game scared if something happening." Well, guess what? Joe Burrow is healthy, and it's confirmed that he is going to play this week. And he's been full go in practice all week. That's good news for Bengals offense. Bad news for Joe Flacco owners. I would wait until after Thursday to see how it goes. Obviously, I think it'll go well, but still wait. But Joe Flacco should be dropped in all leagues. It's only a matter of time when Flacco comes back. I would wait just in case. You never know. The offensive line's pretty bad, and Burrow's injury prone, but Flacco's a ticking time bomb here. So, and then my second creeper is Ramondre Stevenson. But he is burnt toast. He's owned in 66% of leagues, way too high. Stevenson has had. He was a starting running back role for the Patriots, seemingly locked up until he got injured in Week 9. Then, as we all know, Trayvon Henderson took away that role and ran away with it as a starting running back. Since taking over, Henderson has ran the ball 65 times for 330 yards, 4 touchdowns, 13 catches, 110 yards, and another receiving touchdown, almost 90 fantasy points. Last week versus the Bengals was Ramondre's first game back from injury. He ran the ball 6 times for 5 yards, had 1 catch for 5 yards, 2 fantasy points. Fellas,
stick a fork in him. He's done.
Yeah, Trayvon Henderson was drafted in the second round this last draft for a reason. It's officially his team. Like I said, Stevenson is owned in 66% of leagues. Why? Why is he wasting a spot on your team? Drop that dude. Drop him. All right, that is the last segment. That was Sleepers and Creepers. There are 202 live viewers right now, guys. We are so truly grateful for all of you watching us every single week.
Thank you all so much.
Just it's so cool that people are hanging out on a Wednesday night from 9 to 10 with us. 200 of you. Have an awesome Thanksgiving tomorrow. Focus on gratitude and love. Spend quality time with those you love and your family and friends. As for tonight, there are a lot of people who go home for the holidays. The night before Thanksgiving is historically the worst night of the year for drunk driving. I pray everyone stays safe. If you decide to go out, please drink responsibly and find a ride home. It's 10 o'clock. You're probably not going out anymore. You're listening to us talk about fantasy football. You're probably too cool to go out and drink. But, nonetheless, let's not risk your life or someone else's. Once again, we are sponsored by the Inside Edge Network, LVP Productions, and Monster Moments Photography, a husband and wife photography team based in Cleveland who specializes in weddings. Check them out at monstermomentsphotography.com. That's MOSSOR momentsphotography.com. A huge thank you to my co-host, David Cahoon. Follow him on Twitter at BigCahuna24. My name is Ryan Mosser. Please follow me on Twitter at DynastyCLE. This has been the Commissioner's Couch podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at the Commish Couch. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. We really appreciate you guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dave. See you on Call of Duty in about an hour.
Sure. Yeah.